To see more awesome interviews and content such as this, make sure to check out Liana Kerzner's YouTube channel. I'll have a link below in the description. Skip it up and that up. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? As you know, this is Rich of Review Tech USA, and I'm here again with Liana K. It was an awesome talk we had last time, and there is plenty of stuff to talk about today regarding Mass Effect and Anita Sarkeesian and the Switch. And man, do we have a lot to say. I'm actually going to start off with Liana talking about Mass Effect because I am totally behind on what the hell's going on with that. So yeah, because I just said to her right before we started, like officially starting the recording, is that I'm not big on Mass Effect, so that's why I haven't made any videos on it, guys. Because if I made a video on it, I would be talking completely out of my ass. Whereas,
well, this is your video on it. There you go.
There you go. Because Liana knows a hell of a lot more about Mass Effect than I do. So I'm gonna have her start off and tell me why there is this whole debacle, this whole thing with someone who did the facial animations. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Please explain that to me. I wasn't touching that with a 10-foot pole. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that's been in development for at least 5 years. You know, it's one of those things, 5 years we know about. Mm-hmm. Usually there's a good 2 years of development that people don't know about. That's something a lot of people don't know about game design. But then there was this trailer, this teaser trailer that was released after 2 years of we're working. Like they actually showed the animators working on tablet computers. And that was they're coming soon for the game, which I maintain is not industry standard at all. And I started to get worried at that point. But then on Twitter, I believe it was, an actress model by the name of Jade Rossi announced that she was essentially the motion capture model for the female playable character for the Mass Effect Andromeda game. And they've done this before with people like Yvonne Strahovski of Chuck and now 24. They get these, I call them like geek bait actresses in their games to, you know, get the fan base all riled up. Claudia Black provided the voice of Morrigan in Dragon Age. They use these celebrity voices. Trisha Helfer, who of course was Six in Battlestar Galactica, was Edie in Mass Effect, who was the ship's computer who then turned into this hot metal chick, right? Okay. And so people had an expectation of what they were going to get from a protagonist. And I'm immediately going, why is so much of a deal being made of a character that is customizable in the first place? You know, you don't hear about the body model for the playable characters in Elder Scrolls games, right? Or Fallout.
I was about to say the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. But fans started going, hoo, 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 you know, excitement, anticipation builds. And then they did the trailer, and, you know, I described it as BioWare hired a beautiful woman and then created this digital version of her that looked like she went jogging in the makeup she put on to go out clubbing the night before. It was just a wreck. Okay. And that, you know how it is, you have that one stumble as a game, and you better handle it properly or the blood is just in the water and gamers will not forgive you. You know, Exhibit A, Assassin's Creed Unity, that sort of stumbled out of the gate and never recovered. And now there's similar things for what is it? Is it MLB or
yeah, they showed the bugs where like some of the guy's face, like it looked like it turned into straw or something like that.
Yeah, it looks like a cork board. Yeah.
That was so weird, yeah.
Apparently it's already fixed.
Yeah, they fixed it already, so that wasn't that big of a deal, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, BioWare went, we'll fix it. And they came out with something else that looked bad in just a completely different way. I mean, the finished product, well, quasi-finished product, there's now some speculation what's going on here now, but the one that most people saw, and of course, the second mistake they made is the beginning of their coverage was letting outlets like IGN and GameSpot, which are, you know, where you go if you want kind of softball treatment, just, yay, everything's amazing. They're big sites, they do what they do, right? Mm-hmm. And so they got the first 5 hours of the game and they just put this out on the internet. And even they were like, oh dear. And part of it was these really bad facial animations and a model of Sarah Ryder is the name of the character, who looks more like Anita Sarkeesian than Jade Rossi. Like, to be completely honest, they messed it up. I think it's a garbage in, garbage out thing where they use that. You know, there's two types of mocap technology, generalizing horribly. The one where the camera sits here that they've sort of used traditionally in the Call of Duty games, and the one that sits here. And they know that the problem with the one that sits on the chin, the benefit of it is your vision isn't obstructed when you're looking at other people while you're acting. But they know that when it's there, it's further away from the eye. So your eye tracking gets screwed and the face gets a little bit warped. And I mean, if you look at the actress that played Liara, the blue chick, the Asari scientist in the first three Mass Effect games, she has a much less rounded face than Liara does in the game. That's an indicator that the camera's down here. So it's just forced perspective. It's just angle, or as Jade Rossi said on Facebook, it's edging her up, meaning the camera's here instead of here. You know, I described it as that effect of, you know, your dog thinks the picture's going to be so much better if he does this, you know, and it's like whole nose. That I think is what happened. But once you've got that, unless you go in and either just start all over, build a whole new face from the ground up, you're kind of screwed. Or you get her back in and use a different camera, one that's up here. You're limited. But someone found that if they bypassed the creation tools completely, just quick started the game, they got a much more human looking Sarah Ryder as a default model. And so the suspicion is that what went wrong is the character creation tools, when it pulls the image apart so that people can muck with it for their own purposes, it's actually just pushing the image into the uncanny valley. It's just a technical mistake, but because BioWare didn't communicate effectively, because they never do, people thought that they were deliberately making a beautiful woman look less attractive for, you know, to make some sort of political statement about women. And you know how far that goes in video games these days.
God, no, it doesn't go far at all.
Yeah, and so it's just a big marketing debacle that isn't helped by really lukewarm reviews. Like, the game is... Even Polygon gave it a 7.5, and that's, you know...
For a Mass Effect game, it's like a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also a service that should, you know, the whole social justice angle that BioWare takes should be like catnip for them. And they drew Arthur Geis. I mean, it was a perfect draw for them with that review, that he is the consumer for BioWare games. You know, it's not women, it's not core gamers. The modern BioWare game appeals to a guy like that, who is the stereotype of a gamer who pretends to be a Renaissance man. You know,
he's not a fan of me at all.
I don't think he's a fan of me either. I'm pretty sure he has me blocked.
He has me blocked on Twitter, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I have nothing against him. We just disagree on everything.
So why block? That's the thing I don't get. Why block you? He blocked me, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. He blocked me because I called him out on his Doom gameplay, which supposedly he told me wasn't him. It was someone else, and people accused it of being him. So then he sent me a link of him actually playing Doom, and then he blocked me. And then Tara Long and then yeah, like he's like, he proved his manhood by his actual gameplay skill. Then he blocked me. Okay. And then like,
is that like the gamer equivalent of a dick pic?
I guess so.
Doom gameplay. Like,
yeah, I guess it's like, yo, man, Arthur, you got a really small dick. He's like, no, I don't. Here it is. Blocked you. Okay. Thank you, dude. I'm impressed by your Doom gameplay skills. I'm sorry. And then Tara Long got involved, and like she was all pissed off of me on Twitter. It was a long time ago.
Okay, because you've alluded to this in your videos, but I didn't know that there was a Doom gameplay dick pic. Show me your Doom Marine. You know,
it was so weird, man.
Whip out your Doom Marine and measure it. Like, what?
Yeah, like he said it to me, and I was like, oh, and I actually was going to apologize to him because that's how I knew I got blocked. I was like, all right, dude, man, I'm sorry. you know, I admit to my mistakes. Like, all right, man, that wasn't you playing. Cool. I would even made a video. Then he blocked me. I'm like, okay, what the? It's that serious? Like, that's the thing. Like, there's other people that they have like those they have like lists where they automatically block people if you're on the list.
I think that's why I'm blocked by him. I think I'm on one of those lists, and I think he uses them. So it's an impersonal block. It's not me, it's him.
Weird.
It's so strange.
Like, really, like, look, man, I block people. For everyone, like, I've blocked people that have spammed me, that have, like, you know, just tried to get under my skin on Twitter, because I just don't want to deal with it. If you're going to sit there and just annoy me on every single tweet that I have, that's the reason the block button exists. But, like, to just preemptively block people, like...
Yeah.
Come on, man. Grow a set. Same with Adam Sessler, too. And I've actually defended Adam Sessler on my channel. Like, there was something that he did recently that was all over. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen a tweet from him in a while. I go to check, and I'm blocked by him. I'm like,
oh.
It's so weird, man. I don't know how we got off on topic. But, yeah, we're talking Mass Effect.
I think this is kind of on topic because this is all kind of lending itself to the complete lack of trust that this whole Mass Effect debacle is existing in. You know, let's face it, it's not just about a game. It's about a lot of other things swirling around in the video game soup right now. Like, people aren't allowed to just enjoy games anymore. We have to dissect them. And
yeah, we do.
Yeah, and you know, there are certain things I pointed out in Mass Effect that I think part of what players are reacted to, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this, that there's a scandal, and the thing people are getting mad about is a tangible detail, but it's not actually what they're upset about. And I think that's kind of what's going on here, that people are still stung from the ending of Mass Effect 3, even though, you know, they put out tons of DLC to make good for it. I think the company itself acquitted themselves quite well during that whole thing of, okay, we hear you're not happy. You know, Ray Muzica posted that whole glorious blog, you know, written by someone who seems like a grown-up, and they fixed it. They did an extended cut ending, but then the games press was calling all these upset fans who love this stuff. You know, they live and breathe these games, which is precisely what they're designed to invoke in a player. And the games press called them entitled. And it's almost like Gamers en Masse went, you ain't seen Entitled yet. And it just became this distrust thing. And the sort of stuff coming out of BioWare in talks and in tweets and in things like that doesn't seem to mesh with their product as well. And, you know, I said in a past video, gamers don't want to buy games from a studio that seems to hate them.
Oh, that's so true, yeah.
And, you know, CD Projekt can build a game where the horse is so buggy it's standing on tents and its legs are bending backwards, and that happened with Roach, the horse in The Witcher, and CD Projekt just went, our bad. They made kind of an April Fool's Day joke out of it, but they fixed it, and then they even made a Gwent card with, you know, Roach on a roof that was sort of laughing at themselves.
That's the best way to approach it.
Yeah, we done fucked it up is often the best way to approach these things. But there's been kind of a culture war between BioWare and its own fans, because BioWare's fan base is very disparate. They've got the core gamers like me who played, you know, Baldur's Gate back in the day, and we're able to have these really engaged, ongoing, you know, interactions with portraits. Like, they didn't even move back then. It was voices and a still picture that popped up. And then there's these people who have come in more lately with sort of the LGBTQ stuff, and people who are playing primarily for the story. And so they're really trying to serve a quite disparate base in that regard. And I mean, it's a tall order, and I sympathize with them in that regard. And then you add the EA management garbage can onto all of that, and you've got a garbage fire. I mean, EA is terrible about shipping games because they're on the schedule, not because they're ready.
They're one of the worst offenders with that.
Yeah, and that I think is what happened here. If the game had another 3 months, maybe 6 months, they would have been able to fix this stuff. Also, if we'd just seen it sooner, if it had gotten into people's hands sooner, say a playable demo at E3 2 years ago, we would have been having this moment then, and they would have had 2 years to fix it instead of retroactively being all hands on deck. And this is why I am such an advocate for playable demos. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, all that being equal, but it is still the best way to see how people are going to respond to your game very, very early in the refinement process.
Yeah. I agree with demos too. Demos have sold me on games or have turned me off to games. And now, especially, we're in an age where you could play a demo and not just give up on the game and have input and tell the developer, hey, you can go on Twitter and be like, hey, this, and this, I like, this sucks. They could fix it. That's why, I'm a total advocate for demos too. Now,
and some developers fight me on this tooth and nail. They don't like demos. It's expensive. It's misleading. It pulls resources away from your game. And, my response to that is, it's expensive to have a car used just for test drives. That's a car you can't sell at full price. You have to sell it discounted at the end of the model year. But who in their right mind buys a car without a test drive?
Nobody. Yeah,
nobody.
100% right.
And test drives don't give you the full story, but at least you know what it feels to put your hand on that steering wheel. And that's one of those intangibles. That's something you can't explain to a person. It either feels good or it doesn't. And games are the exact same way. Either your hands on that controller interacting with the game feels good or it doesn't. And a lot of, gamers right now with Mass Effect Andromeda, to quote Peppy the Frog, are going, feels bad, man.
I got it. I'm interested to try it now, just because like I said, I'm not a big Mass Effect guy, but maybe I'll go.
I'm so torn. I'm so torn with this because EA treats me like I smell. They give me nothing. They're the only developer that gives me absolutely shit fuck all access, and so I don't want to spend the money. But at the same time, this is almost a Manos Hand of Fate experience where you want to see it because it's so bad. And apparently they've even reused the animations in some of the sex scenes. So sex with the female protagonist is exactly the same as the male protagonist. And it's like, what is that Asari writing? It's
that's just not how it works.
No, and that's sort of the comment, man, that, after all your let's be inclusive and let's add gay people and let's add lesbians, seriously, you don't get that the mechanics of lesbian sex are different?
You gotta motion cap all those different kind of sexual preferences. Yeah.
And this is the problem with a game like this, where you have such open-ended choice and these narratives that branch like an oak tree, right? It gets really expensive.
My thing is this, I know people are going to call me, why is there even... I don't care about sex in video. I don't care about sex in TV shows. I don't care about sex in anything in entertainment, okay? Why is it in the games to begin with? I just don't care.
It's certainly marketing. I'm with you. I find it exceptionally awkward. Unless it's played for laughs and something like God of War or Saints Row, where there's actually sort of an interactive component to it.
Still, it was funny, but I'm sitting there, I'm pressing the X button, and you have Kratos going doggy style on somebody. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I?
It's funny. It's funny that you remember that, because you actually don't see anything. You hear it. What you have is a cherub getting rattled.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it's the quick time events, right? And then at the end, the cherub kind of squirts more water. It's totally suggestive.
Yes.
I thought it was quite clever, and that was something you kind of stumbled on in the first game. I know, because I'm like, if in doubt, hit it with fire kind of gamer. And so I was bopping around in the first one on this burning ship, and it's like, I'm going to try to hit this improbably placed screen. Whack, whack. Oh, 2 naked chicks in a hot tub. Okay, did not see that coming. And I think it's important to judge these things in context in that regard. And I think in games like The Witcher 3 anyway, I think 3 did it better than the first 2, but the various sexual encounters with the various women tell you something about them. You know, Triss, it's all kind of romantic in a lighthouse and everything like that. And Yennefer's, it's, you know, bareback sex on a unicorn, like literally. And it's again that element of the absurd that makes it feel less
awkward when it's genuine. Exactly, when they try to be genuine with it. Like, yeah. I'm playing a video game. Like, yes, I like that video games are more mature and they've expanded and they've kind of grown with me, but I don't want sex when I watch like whatever stupid ass show like Scandal my fiance watches. I don't care. Like, I want to know nothing about what you do with your genitals and your like, just I want the story and the plot.
I think when it's part of plot, when it's done properly,
yes,
then all right, I'm with it. Like, some of the sex in Penny Dreadful makes a lot of sense, but my husband was on the couch during some of those scenes going, do I need to see this? And sometimes you want to make your audience uncomfortable, fine, but I think there's another element to it in games where, you know, it's the question of, this isn't interactive, so it's dissonant. Like, all of a sudden I become of spectator instead of a player, and that's when I go up and go to the fridge to get another drink. That's my complaint with it. Like, I don't give a shit if Geralt is having sex with all these women. I really don't care if Morgan is screwing Alistair. The discussions with the Solarian doctor in the was it the original Mass Effect or one of the future games where he actually had to give you sex tips with aliens because, you know, he's like, watch out for chafing or some amino acids may not be compatible. Here's a cream. Yeah. Like, that was funny. That I actually found, like, just stuck a pin in the perversity of it all. But it was part of dialogue. It was something I was interacting with, as opposed to, you know, that stupid sweeping opera music and and these characters are bouncing off each other like, you know, 2 sticks, and in some cases they were still wearing, like, it just like, and could you imagine having to mocap that?
Yeah, like I need you to hump the air for about 30 minutes while we record it.
Move the ping pong ball on your chest, it's digging into my back, like.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, you couldn't pay me enough.
Yeah,
not that they wouldn't want to pay me to do that, but you couldn't pay me enough.
See, I think that's part of the other problem too. If I want to see pretty people boffing, I can turn on HBO. You know, within 3 minutes of the start of any HBO pilot, it's "Hey, boobs out." That's why it's HBO, right? And I agree with you too. I think it's annoying, and I think it looks down on the audience. It looks down on the player. But I mean, for Mass Effect, it's working, right? Because there's a ton of articles right now that this is how you have sex with these various aliens.
Yeah, they're giving you like pointers on it. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this is a thing. Yeah.
And it's hard not to go, oh, nerds, at that moment. And then you realize, oh, shit, I am one. But I'm not this. Like, this is starting to get into that way people feel about furries a lot of the time. And I personally love furries, but I now sort of understand the discomfort because, like, man, in a game where you can explore planets and customize weapons and save the freaking galaxy or save, you know, the 40,000 citizens who are in cryostasis that are relying on you, you're interested in alien sex.
Yeah.
So that's basically what's going on with Mass Effect. It sounds like I've kind of piqued your interest if you want to spend 35 hours for train wreck and lulls.
I say that, but I have such a back catalog of games, man. I have games from I still haven't taken the cellophane. God, people are going to get on me about this, but I'm being honest. I still haven't taken the cellophane off Uncharted 4.
Personally, I think if you're going to miss an Uncharted game, that's the one to miss.
Really?
It's beautiful.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful game, but 2 is still it for me. In terms of total package.
I love 2. I beat 2. I love 2. Uncharted 3 I couldn't get into. Uncharted 4, like I said, I haven't touched. I want to give it a shot, really. I'm hearing usually Uncharted 3, which I kind of agree with. I haven't touched Uncharted 4 yet, so I can't judge that. Is like the bastard child of the Uncharteds. I didn't like 1 that much either, but that's a different story.
1 was a little janky. They still hadn't got the melee combat down, and they sort of solved it by downsizing it a lot in 2. But 2 was just, I don't know. It was funny. It was beautiful. Yes. The puzzles were really good. It wasn't too long. I just played through that game so many freaking times, and the villain was good.
Yes, the villain was excellent.
In 2, and in those serial adventure stories that it's based on, the villain has to be great. And they have to be larger than life. And I found that was missing in 3 and missing in 4. 3 had its moments. There were things I liked about 3 better than 2, but 2 just overall, if I had to pick one, it's Uncharted 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think so for me too. Like I said, I haven't tried Uncharted 4 yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to turn it around on you. I'm behind on the Switch, and we talked about that last time. So catch me up there.
So I own the Switch. It's a shockingly good surprise from Nintendo. I was in the camp of, and people still get on me for it, that I wanted to see Nintendo come out with a conventional console that was capable of playing all the third-party games and still making the great first-party games and just being a box. And diehard Nintendo fans still get on me for that. I still kind of agree with that standpoint, to be honest with you, but this is the route they took. But I have to say, after using the Switch and seeing what it's capable of and how seamless it is from going from the dock to taking it out and using it as a portable, it's just like that. For you guys who haven't used, I said this in videos before, I don't know if you have, the NVIDIA Shield, like their tablets. NVIDIA, which they work with NVIDIA. NVIDIA ended up making a chipset for them, it's so on and so forth. If you used an NVIDIA Shield tablet, NVIDIA tried to do this. Like they had the NVIDIA Shield where it actually had the fold-out screen, which that was, fairly, but again, you couldn't take that and just pop it on your TV, 1, 2, 3. And they had the NVIDIA Shield tablet. I have that tablet. I like it. But to get their whole thing was, you could use it as a tablet, use the controller, and then you can hook it up to your TV. It's not seamless. Okay, yeah. You gotta put it. You gotta have a case that maybe folds out so you can have it leaning up, so you don't have to have it just laying flat, so it's easier to hook it up that way. You gotta hook up a mini HDMI cable. You gotta have your power hooked up, which that tablet's very power hungry. So even if you have it plugged in, it still loses battery. Explain that one to me. I've had multiple ones. I thought there was something wrong. They all did it. Then you have to hit on the screen if you want it in mirror mode or console mode, and it was a pain in the ass. Nintendo was like, okay, that's a nice rough draft. We're gonna do it better. And now all you do is just take that little tablet, pop it in. 2 seconds later, the game's up on the screen. And they change the clock speeds of the graphics processor. And next thing you know, it's Zelda's in 900p as opposed to 720p. So it's just really interesting. Now, I personally, too, for anyone out there who haven't seen my other 6,000 videos on the Switch, which is probably an understatement, I have dealt with zero issues with my console. I haven't had the left Joy-Con not sync. Even when my fiance was playing it sit on the couch or I was playing it sit on the couch, no issues. I haven't had any of the issues other people have had their screen scratched their dock. Haven't had that. So I don't have any dead pixels on my screen. So
well, those just sound like hardware where whenever you have hardware, there's going to be flaws in manufacturing at times.
And that's what Nintendo came out and said. They're like, look, in spec, that's where the defect rate is expected. Like, it's not like there's any kind of spike where we have like 70, like a red ring of death, you know, where like 50% of the Xbox 360s would melt themselves to death after like a year. They're like, no, it's normal, like where, you know, where people buy one and it just so happens to be defective. When you have millions of things being on a conveyor belt being manufactured, shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't dealt with any of that. And it is amazing where you have a game like Legend of Zelda, okay, Breath of the Wild, a game that big and that expansive where you could take something that's a 6-inch and change tablet and play the same game that you were playing on a flat screen TV.
And it's actually the same game. It's not an app that continues your
expansion. It's the same exact. When you take it out of the dock, you're playing the same game that you were playing on your TV.
I'm so glad I was right about this because it just felt good. It's a thing I was talking about again, that test drive. Nintendo did events. They put it in people's hands. We got to try it. And it just felt good. And I was sold for the same thing you were. It's just here, boom, boom, play.
They just did so much the exact opposite in a good way from the Wii U. The Wii U was like, Nintendo didn't really even kind of know what the hell it was. They couldn't
explain it.
They didn't have like all the events that they had. They didn't have the advertising. They tried in the beginning, I'm sure you remember, to be like, oh yeah, we're all about third party this time. We swear with the Wii U. And it really, like, after like the first, I would say, year, they almost all completely died. You know, the thing looked like a Fisher-Price toy. I like the Wii U. I always say I like the Wii U more than the Wii. But it wasn't a sexy device. Mm-hmm. At all. Mm-hmm. It was like a plasticky, fingerprinty thing. It looked like a toy. Whereas with the Switch, okay, you could say the bright, colorful Joy-Cons make it kind of toyish, but if you get the gray ones, it looks like a tablet that you would get from like LG, or like even like Nintendo's branding isn't like in your face like it used to be a lot of times. Like, it's just
the weight of the Wii U in portable mode is so much lighter. Sorry, the Switch in portable mode is so much lighter than the Wii U gamepad. And that was my one complaint with it. I love the games I could play on it. Mm. You know, I love Yoshi. I love Toad Treasure Tracker. You know, love me my Bayonetta. But it is heavy. You know, I had to sort of sit there with it in my lap so my knee could take some of the weight. Because it is a heavy unit when you've been playing for a while and you can't get around it. You know, you can't switch to TV mode and, you know, use the Pro Controller or the two Joy-Cons squished together. You're stuck with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have any options with the Wii U.
Have you played any games other than Zelda?
I have. I tried Fast Remix, Blaster Master Zero, which was strange in the beginning with Blaster Master. They just came out with a patch for it, but wouldn't use the Switch Pro Controller in the beginning. You had to use the actual two Joy-Cons together, but they fixed that now, so... And the games, like, I have to say, Fast Remix from a technical standpoint is amazing because it runs at 1080p, 60 frames per second on your TV. And that's, you know, I don't know, when you get super technical here, the interesting thing was, it was just revealed, Digital Foundry came out with it, and they got their information too. I'll put a little annotation. I forgot the other place they got it from right now. I did a video on it where all it is the chipset inside of the Switch is the same one that's in the Shield TV. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a Tegra X1. Everyone got. I knew that for a while because there were a bunch of everyone got pissed off. Oh, Rich, you know what you're talking about? It's custom. And then someone did a teardown and they took like these really close screenshots of the dies and they're exactly the same. So, but what Nintendo did is they worked with NVIDIA and they really made this really optimized software. So we're gonna see games like I hear rumors, very educated rumors that Dark Souls 3 is coming to the Switch, which I want to see that.
I've heard that too.
And it just isn't going. And it's funny, GameSpot, and this could be a total typo. There could be nothing more behind it. But even after the rumors, GameSpot had video gameplay up. It said captured from Switch or captured on Switch. So that would be amazing to see, and that would be a good sign because even though the Switch hardware-wise is behind PS4 and Xbox One, it means that if someone really digs into the hardware, they can make games like Dark Souls 3 come to the Switch. So I like it, man. I like it. And
it's funny, though, that you say that it's running in 1080p, and a lot of the PlayStation games on the, you know, base PlayStation 4 aren't running in 1080p. On the Xbox, they are at their peril, but I didn't play Horizon Zero Dawn in 1080. It was 720.
Was it? I thought it was. I thought they said it was 1080p. I thought the game natively was rendered on.
I think on the PlayStation Pro, it's higher resolution, but when it captured, it was 720, and it looked fine.
I got to look into that. I think on the Pro, they do checkerboarding to get the 4K, and then on the PS4, it's native 1080p. I believe
it's funny though, because Sony in its embargoes doesn't insist you max out the specs. Xbox does, and I always find that strange. You must run in 1080p on YouTube, where it's artifacted the crap out of it. Oh yeah, it's right in their embargoes that if you're gonna do Let's Play gameplay, it's got to be pre-launch, it's got to be 1080p 60 frames per second. I had to reinvest in a bunch of stuff to do that. I think that it's interesting that the Switch is getting those numbers, because it didn't need to, but like you said, for third party, that's a good sign.
Yeah,
because it means that it's a minor downgrade instead of making games look like GoldenEye.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be very, very nerdy and technical, racing games are fairly less demanding than other games, because you don't have you don't have a huge draw distance. You're not trying to go into an open world. But then you could say in defense of the Switch that a game like Zelda I'm going to be a devil's advocate with myself here, but Zelda Breath of the Wild runs at 900p. Which is pretty cool, which is above the 720p it runs on Wii U. But at the same time, it was a game that was made for the Wii U that they're putting on their next-gen console. So you could be like, okay, yeah, whoop-de-doo, Rich. It's a game that, ported over from a less powerful system, technically. So of course they can do that. But again, taking that aside, it's a tablet that you're running a game like that on. It's not a full-fledged console. If it was a full-fledged console, who gives a shit? But you have something that's 6 inches that you could fit into, not your pocket, but into a little case that you could take with you everywhere. So
it's also a totally different application. I mean, I know I wanted some of that integration that we were sort of promised with the PSP crossplay feature, but you need a connection, and that doesn't work in the subway. Whereas with the Switch, it's just there. The game's right on there, and it's technology that works, and people can understand that. And for people who aren't technical, I can go, okay, this is what it's for. It's for people who want to play Legend of Zelda on their morning commute, because that's the only time they have. They don't have free time, and that's so very Japanese. I just love it. I love that they actually blue oceaned this in the correct direction and created a product people can actually see a purpose for. So I hope it does well. I hope every console does well, but I really want to see Nintendo come back.
And I think they have a chance with this. And this is coming from a guy who was very concerned and a big naysayer. One thing I will say, though, for everyone who, I have some bad news for you. I don't think that Nintendo is going to stick with the 3DS. I think that they really want to focus on one piece of hardware, and they're telling everyone right now they're sticking with the 3DS because they want to make sure the numbers with the Switch are there. And if the numbers at the Switch are there, they're going to kind of quietly let the 3DS drift off into the sunset. Which
it makes sense. I see where you're going with that, because it's two products that essentially do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And to me, the 3DS right now is just a Fire Emblem Fates delivery device. And it's great for that. Those are great games. But yeah, they're still bullish on it. I mean, I just got a press release about another bundle. They're still going on the 3DS just because so many of them have sold.
They have to for now, too. And they're also, that's their insurance policy if the Switch starts to falter. So they're going to tell you, they did the same thing with the Game Boy Advance when the DS came out. They did the same thing with the GameCube when the Wii came out. Oh, we're going to keep supporting. As soon as those consoles started to sell well, it was like they flushed the other one down the toilet, and they just didn't say anything. Next thing you know, it's just kind of gone. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the 3DS. There's a lot of people who think I'm totally wrong. Maybe I am. But I just, plus also it's an older piece of hardware. We're going to the days where you have something like the Game Boy lasting 10 years. The original 3DS came out in 2011, and it's now 2017. I know they made a refresh that's more powerful with the new 3DS, but it's still essentially the same hardware, so.
I guess maybe refine your statement of, it's not that That's not that they're going to just artificially cut off the 3DS. It has a life cycle.
Yeah.
And the question for Nintendo is, do they do a, for lack of a better term, 4DS or a 3DS Plus, right? Or do they allow that niche to naturally kind of bisect into their mobile platform stuff and then the Switch? Because let's face it, both of those things are portable gaming as well.
And I don't even think that the 3DS, what is you may know better than me, and I knew the numbers the battery life. What is the battery life on a 3DS? It's not amazing, is it?
I think it's a little better than the
Switch.
Switch. I never trust what the spec sheets say.
Yeah, because they're going to best case scenario, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the Switch works for about the length of a commute, and that's all people really need it for. Mm-hmm. Kids playing it in a car are going to plug it in to that, Switch in the minivan anyway.
Yeah, they're going to.
So, yeah, the battery. If you put a giant battery in something, it's going to add weight. And I think they made the right choice in regards to the battery life's okay on the Switch, but I'm a little suspicious of that 3-hour constant runtime.
I've heard that people have hit it, though, with the Breath of the Wild. That they
fabulous. That's great.
And people are like, oh, I want more time. But I'm like, you're playing a game like Breath of the Wild on a portable device that isn't that big. So I don't know what you really... I wanted more, and I was kind of disappointed. But at the same time, when I thought about it, it's like you have a relatively small tablet that's powerful running a game like that's open world like Breath of the Wild. Unless they wanted you to have like a big, thick battery, like those big batteries you get to add onto your laptops hanging off it, what were they going to do? And you can, because it's USB-C, use a juicy battery pack to pop into it, and that'll actually prolong the life significantly. I actually got one sent to review, but I'm so behind with shit, right? I have so many things I got to review. It's ridiculous, but it's a different story.
It's been a busy spring. A couple weeks ago, I didn't know how I was going to dig out of stuff. It's crazy the amount of stuff that... And I'm kind of tired of that phenomenon that things get pushed from Q4 and Q1 into late Q1, Q2. And it's like, holy crap, guys. Why does it... I know why it all comes out now, but is Spring Break really that big a seller considering the age of the average gamer? You'd think more summer releases when people actually have vacation time. They don't have to take time off to play Breath of the Wild for a couple days. They can use their actual vacation and just do a gamecation and have fun. You'd think that a few summer releases would be good, but that's Steam sale territory right now. It's funny. It's like I'm sure they have their research and I'm sure there's reasons, but it seems like it hasn't evolved into the reality that games are an adult pastime. It's not just for kids anymore.
I don't know what... I mean, it's been proven with how many times they've done, like, surveys and stuff that it's more of an adult pastime, but it's still not seen it as an adult pastime. I don't understand it. Like, it's factual.
People won't admit it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's still that stigma that if... I think we talked about this almost a little bit last
We did. Yeah.
There's still that stigma that if you play games, you're either an adult weirdo or you're 12. Even though that's so not true. But then people say, well, I go on Xbox Live and it's all I hear. I'm like, yeah, because they're the outspoken ones.
Yeah.
At 35, I'm not going to go, yeah, I slept with your mother last night. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you know better.
Yeah, you know better. That's why you always hear them, because they're the outspoken ones. But
well, that's the same thing, dovetailing a bit, like backing up, that a developer got harassed because of the Mass Effect thing, and of course, what
happened with that? I was about to ask you about that before. I know we're jumping over topics, but I forgot. With the screen, the motion cap thing, they said there was some actress or something they hired, or
someone, I'm guessing as a joke, put lead mocap designer for Mass Effect Andromeda on their profile. She was actually apparently just sort of a low-level employee at EA Vancouver. It was that the same way people put King of the Shitlords on their Twitter profile. Like, Twitter profiles are not a resume, right?
Okay.
You've got to be careful with that. But some aspiring citizen journalist basically put a call out on this person saying, and it happened to be a woman. I don't think it would have been any different
if it was a man.
Had they been male. I mean, people go after Manveer here like tooth and nail too, and he's a guy, but it happened to be a woman, which is of course made the whole thing worse because it falls in that narrative. And setting up the final thing we wanted to talk about today beautifully here,
yes.
but it became a whole thing, and it got reported as death threats. I saw more of "you should die" for this, and it irritates me every time something like this happens, because you see it in other things. I was just watching Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, over the weekend. I love that show. But he was talking to a couple of, he was in Chicago, and he was talking to a couple of sports fans, and they're talking about how all the owners need to be killed. And, any Chicago sports fan wants the owners of the teams to die. And it's no different than what you hear coming out of gamers who should know better. But for some odd reason, that's not reflective of all sports fans the way it is all gamers. It's basically, oh, that's Chicago, oh, that's New York.
Yes.
Instead of it being, oh, those are those,
dumbasses, the village idiots of the gaming community.
They're those Xbox Live, that particular microcosm of culture, what League of Legends used to be as well. Like, they're a particular subset of gamers. I mean, part of the problem we're having is we keep talking about this gamer identity, and we don't actually know what that is, other than I like video games a lot. And so the press, who does not have an informed perspective, likes to make the gamer identity anything it wants that's convenient at the time to make us look as bad as possible.
Because it's still people are still very ignorant towards gaming as a form of entertainment. That's why they could do that.
Well, people need an enemy. People need some outsider that it's okay to beat on, whether it's rock and roll or Dungeons and Dragons or dancing back in the day, sex may lead to dancing was the old joke. There's always something that is considered the thing that's going to take society right down to the gutter. It never is, but it's seduction of the innocent, moral panic all over again. People are, I think, a little uncomfortable with the sheer rapidity of cultural change that we're experiencing now. And there are a lot of groups that are kind of easy to blame for that. Gamers are a good one for mainstream cable news, because let's face it, look at the average age of the cable news audience.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Plus,
yeah.
Right?
And
right?
They know fuck all about gaming, because they were like the generation right before gaming became something. Or maybe like a generation and a half. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because one of the fastest growing segments of gaming is 35 plus women. So that is changing. But that's because, you can download something on your phone and nobody knows, right? Nobody has to know you've got Candy Crush Saga on your phone. So it's the same thing that, when digital comics became a thing, female readership shot up of superhero books. They didn't have to go into the stores. And it's the same thing kind of happening. I think that's going to change, but it's just an easy talking point now. It's a shorthand for, it's the Snidely whiplash of mainstream news, dating myself with that reference. But that villain who's got the cape over his nose sort of thing. It's like, gamer, right? And obviously brands like EA are putting some money into network dramas, because there has been an explosion of procedurals dealing with esports and gaming in a semi-positive light. I mean, there's an element of exploitation, but it certainly isn't that Special Victims Unit episode of a year ago. It's more, esports is this billions and billions of dollars, and these people are competitive players and all that stuff. I don't know if it's the writers play games and they want to see themselves reflected, but the brands they mentioned, like Titanfall and things like that, I think there's probably some direct sponsorship going on there as well, which as much as I bash EA, good for them. That's doing a positive. If they're willing to put money in to make gaming as a whole seem better and promote Titanfall while they're at it and Battlefield, good for them, right?
Titanfall 2 was such a gravely overlooked game. Not to go on a different subject, but that game was so good, and it got nowhere near the sales that it should have. But anyway,
I think because the first one was somewhat limited, people didn't want. It's like what happened to Watch Dogs 2 as well.
No, you know what it is? They sandwiched it between like so many different friggin' AAA. Like you had like Battlefield 1. I don't remember the exact order, but you had like Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, and a billion other different games from a billion other different devs at the time that were AAA, and everyone's like, what the hell one do I get? And then plus it was a console exclusive you could get on PC too. But the original Titanfall was a console exclusive. There was a lot of people who may have been unfamiliar with it. So it was like, I'm going to get Battlefield 1. I don't even know what the hell Titanfall is. Or I do know, but I never played it. So I'm going to trust Battlefield 1 over Titanfall. So, but anyway, yeah, that was...
Yeah, there's something funny with the marketing on that one because it should be right in my wheelhouse. That should be a game I'm excited to play. But I tried the first one and it made me crazy motion sick. That 360-degree loop when getting in the Titan, that happened 4 or 5 times. I'm like, I don't feel so good. I need to lie down. And so I didn't even try the second one. And that's something that games marketers, I think, have to be aware of. You have to allow people to resample because you have no idea what they walked away feeling from that first game. You have to treat every game like a new dawn. I think so personally. You know, you have to treat everyone like this is the greatest thing. Assume nothing. Don't assume your fans are going to go out there and proselytize for you. And unfortunately, that's the marketing playbook now, is engage your base and have them sell the game for you. And I think that's just a really bad idea because you're not engaging new social networks. You're relying on the ones that pre-exist, and that just you're gonna get erosion just naturally.
It's kind of like what Nintendo fans feel like Nintendo should only do. Instead of trying to cater or trying to bring in new audiences, they just want them to stick to the audiences they have now, which I don't understand. Companies are there to make money. They're not there just to facilitate to you and make you happy.
Well, and there's also just a natural, like I said, market erosion. They know this. People drop off for no fault of their own. They can't afford it anymore. They don't have the time. Yeah. You know, the gaming is increasingly less, what's what I'm looking for? The gamer lifestyle meshes not well with family commitments.
Oh, and no, it doesn't. Why do you think I still have Uncharted 4 in the cellophane? Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, like I think that pulling away from couch co-op has really been to the industry's detriment because there are certain games that if I can't excuse it for work, it just sits there. Yeah. And I want to play the game, but I'll end up playing RimWorld or Civilization 6 for the blinking umpteenth time because I can have a conversation and we can have a TV show on and I'm actually, engaged in my marriage instead. Yeah. That is something the industry has not
understood.
Yeah, they're trying to just suck more money out of each individual user, which means increases the playtime so they can grab them on those in-app purchases. And I think it's very short-sighted.
Yeah, because not everyone can have that same time investment. It's not that I want to play casual. I would rather bang my head against the wall than play Candy Crush. Believe me, that's not where I'm going. But I'd like a game where they design it that if I sit down and only want to play for a half an hour, that it works that way. It's still a AAA game that may have 40 hours, but there's a way that I could come back to it, step away, go back to it, step away.
I miss those weekend warrior experiences. The game was 18 hours long. You could binge through it in a weekend, and you're done. You're happy. You stepped away from the world, kind of got centered again, and then go back recharged and raring to go. And now it's like, oh, I need to have 60 hours to get through this thing. It's a commitment now.
Yeah. And that's why I like games like Killing Floor 2, because you could sit down, you could have that, you could play that map, you get that satisfying experience, and then you can move on and then come back to it and move on, you know, or dying.
Oh, that's interesting. That's one I've been eyeing, but I hadn't heard that about that. That's actually a really great selling point for me.
And it's so good. There's just something I really like about Killing Floor 2. It's really enjoyable, and you can pick it up, play it, put it down, go on with your day. And that to me is a huge, at 35, that's a big selling point, because I'm not 20 single and have all the time in the world, you know.
That was the design philosophy behind League of Legends initially too, is they wanted people to have a solid 20-30 minutes and feel like they did something.
And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. If there's a game where I could barely, if I can't get through the dialogue of your game in like 15-20 minutes, I can't fuck with it. You know what I mean? Like, you're already telling me that I just have to sit there and listen to people talk, and I can't. I have a 5-month-old son. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I need a game with a pause button.
Yeah.
Or short instances, but even then, I can't predict when I'm going to get interrupted. I don't even like timed levels in those bullshit casual games. It's got to be, I can just suspend this anytime I want. I can't stand it when I lose control over my life because of a video game.
Yeah, it's and it shouldn't be that way, you know? A TV show, you could, not to bring up legacy media, but you could DVR a TV show, pause it, go do what you got to do, and then come back to it. And this is where I have to give Zelda Breath of the Wild some credit. And no, I'm not a cheerleader for Nintendo right now. I've been known as a Nintendo hater until recently. They made it that you could, people are like, oh my God, you hate Nintendo. And now all of a sudden, because I'm seeing a lot of positive things, oh, you just love Nintendo. What's wrong with you? Maybe it's called being objective. But anyway.
I'm sensing a trend with you, Rich, that no matter what you say, you take shit.
Yes. Oh my God, look at my comment section, man. I've had people like dedicate their life to trying to destroy mine. But anyway, literally, I'm not even kidding, unfortunately.
No, I know you're not. That's why I'm laughing.
You know, yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah, if I don't laugh right now, I'm going to cry. So I choose to laugh.
Yeah, that was so sad. But with Zelda, you could literally, like a PC game, save anywhere to the frame, just like you hit at F5 in an old PC game. That's brilliant, Nintendo, because you have the Switch. It's a portable system. If someone, and they market it more towards adults, so if someone has to go do something, oh, look, I could save right here, exactly where I am, and get back to it exactly where I left off. So you could play 10 minutes of Zelda or 5 hours of Zelda and feel like you did something. And that was brilliant. That was absolutely... Yeah, I don't have to run to a shrine. I don't have to go somewhere and run for 30 minutes to save it. I could save it right then and there and just stop.
And I hope that's something other open world games pick up on, because as much as I like my open world games, because I just like that experience of turning the whole map from red to green, it's just, the dopamine receptors in my brain just go crazy for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I got to figure out whether I want to do this, I'm going to date myself here, dungeon, because it's that far away and I have to hike it from the save point. That's just not respecting the player's time. And even games that claim their design philosophy is respecting the player's time do that. So hopefully with all the glowing scores on a Nintendo game, that, and I think Zelda isn't a Nintendo game. Zelda is Zelda in a lot of reviewers' minds, and I'm torn on that. But I think that little things like that, I hope other developers take note that these are intangibles. Reviewers may not point them out, but wow, does that add to the enjoyment of the experience.
That's like, now at my age, that's like me buying a game or me not buying it. Because if I have to sit there and be like, okay, I have to spend 6 hours or I will do nothing in this game, I can't do it. It's just insane. But speaking of switching topics, that was...
And the perfect Zelda scores.
Yeah. Zelda, yes, because it actually ties into Zelda. We're going to talk about Anita Sarkeesian, which is funny because you did not actually know this was going on until I sent you my video.
I block those things out of my brain now. I see them and it's an instant data dump. It's like I have a bad RAM chip in my head or a bad cluster on my hard drive that is where all the feminist frequency related stuff goes. Because it's
funny because I'll start with this. Let's see if she actually doesn't have me blocked so I could see. Oh, wow, she didn't block me. Amazing.
Heavy.com has all the tweets posted as well.
But I'm not blocked, so that's beautiful.
I am. I'm blocked.
Wow, I've told her like to fuck off before on Twitter, and she hasn't blocked me. That's amazing.
Yes, but you didn't violate the sisterhood.
Oh, okay, because I'm not actually a female, so it's
I'm bad for women, according to Catherine Cross. But I wore my coping mechanism T-shirt.
Ask me about my feminist agenda. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually a Marvel comic book cover, but I saw this shirt when it came up. I'm like, yes! The last time I talked on this subject was a couple days ago, and I wore what I called ironic plaid. Because there's this shirt I really like, but I won't wear it on camera because it's too feminist frequency. Like, she's freaking ruined plaid shirts for women because now it's a statement.
She's made she went from making feminism about equality to making feminism like cancerous. I bet that's the only way I could really. I'm actually looking at her tweets aren't in the same order they used to be. So now
she didn't do it. Like, she didn't come up with these theories, and this is something that's fundamental to understand about her. She's just giving lip service to stuff that other people came up with, and she doesn't entirely understand. Everything's very, very surface with her, and that doesn't make it wrong. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're only looking at the surface of the water, you think it's pretty boring. And then there's an entire ecosystem of fish and plants and all that stuff living underneath.
There's context to things. You can't just take something at face value. And that's what she seems to do with her videos, tropes versus women in video games. I'm going to talk about one in a second, but here I'll read the tweets for you guys who missed my other video. I'll have an eye right here or whatever. But the slew of perfect scores Breath of the Wild received from critics shows that most still don't give a damn about how women are represented in games. Through the memories players can collect, Breath of the Wild acknowledges the ongoing problem of Zelda being damsel, but doesn't do anything about it, which is interesting because my friend Mundane Matt actually played through Zelda, and it's actually not about his damsel in distress, but that's a different story. Critics might call out sexism in games with bad gameplay, but often act as if it's not worth mentioning when the gameplay is great. It is, which is also bullshit, which I mentioned in my video because Arthur Guys about Bayonetta 2 bitched about it because he said it was too sexist, which... Arthur Guy, our buddy again. There is so much to admire in Breath of the Wild. Its gameplay is incredible, but that absolutely doesn't excuse it of its tired, sexist plot devices, which, Anita, you obviously didn't play the fucking game. You're just, hey, here's a popular game that has a princess in it. Let me call it out so people talk about me again.
What are we supposed to believe? That we're supposed to downgrade games in general reviews based on our own personal politics? Or are we supposed to take her at her word when she said, remember that it's both possible and even necessary to simultaneously enjoy media while also being critical of its more problematic or pernicious aspects? Which is it?
And it's my thing is this too. When will someone like her be satisfied? When women just walk around in a giant piece of carpeting? Like, the most amazing thing, like I mentioned in my YouTube video, is I was looking for a picture of her as a thumbnail, and there's a picture of her where she's wearing like a dress, and you literally see side boob. I'm pointing to like my side boob. What the hell's that going to do? But you literally see side boob.
I don't know. It's getting me a bit hot, Rich. I don't know. It's working for me. It's working for me.
The man boobs drive women crazy. There you go. There you go. But I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at her. I'm like, you made a video complaining about how women's asses are in video games, and here you are showing off the side of your tit in a dress. Now, am I saying like you saw like the whole bare breast? No. But it's the same thing. So if you're showing your assets, how can you bitch about assets being shown in a video game when you're kind of doing the same thing to yourself? And I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's a hypothetical question because...
Yeah. Well, it's not hypothetical. Like, what do you think of that? You're a woman, so...
I know the textbook response to this, and this is precisely what the funny thing is, I went to the same damn university that Sarkeesian did, so I sat in the same courses, and it was like I picked the Renegade ending and she picked the Paragon ending, so she ended up indoctrinated and I ended up just blowing everything up, right? The argument is that art isn't people, and therefore it's a different criticism to condemn real world women for their choices, because they can actually choose to wear that dress. A woman in a video game cannot choose because it's the developer choosing for her. And I just completely disagree on two paradigms.
Me too.
You know, one is that's breaking the fourth wall. And as a creative, content creator myself, no, you have to buy into the reality of the work. You can't use death of the author when it's convenient and then take it away when it's inconvenient. But secondly, some of these things she's poked at, the Shiva from Resident Evil, whatever game, where they put her in the traditional tribal gear, that's an optional outfit that a player can choose to put on her. And player agency in terms of optional wardrobe and everything like that always trumps character agency. Always, always, always. That's why it's a video game and not a TV show, right? Mm-hmm. And those outfits are intended to be silly. It's not her default costume. It's optional. It's the same way that in past playthroughs of games, you could run around dressed like a duck, or, with the big head mod or something like that.
Like in Dead Rising, yeah.
It's also a Japanese game, so the intent is to displace reality, unlike Western media that more often than not reflects reality. And it's important to remember that too. Japanese games aren't striving for realism. Point to me where anybody put anime as a race on their census form, right? They don't look like any race.
Well,
and so
the thing that
that's the argument. That's the argument. I don't agree with it, but that is.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either, because when you could say, okay, she dressed like that, she chose to dress like, she has the choice. But at the same time, when you're condemning over-sexuality in video games and you're sexualizing yourself, you're not being a good poster child for what you're fighting against. Well,
you're also taking away the developer's right to establish a character through dress. It's a valid decision as long as it's made thoughtfully and not just as, well, I'm going to make this chick and she's going to be hot, and hot means a particular thing.
Yeah, like Dead or Alive. Like, I got pissed off when they banned that game from coming to the States. I'm sorry, I apologize to cut you off. That totally pissed me off. But I could get, I could get the weak sauce argument. Okay, that game is terrible, that should never come to the States. But I'm like, why do you want to censor? If someone wants to play that game, why are you telling them what they can and can't play? Why are you telling an adult what they can go out and not purchase? And
you also have to wonder what it says about a society that's demonizing a body part that babies use for food.
Oh, God, man. People in the States go, I don't know about you guys, wherever you watch this from, but breastfeeding in the United States is like, people consider it porn. I don't understand. I think it's weird, especially, that I have a child of my own and he's breastfed. Like, what the fuck is the big deal? But people lose their minds in the States over that, which is really strange. If you lose sleep over women breastfeeding, male or female, you have your own issues. But
this is what kills me about this cover up for feminism argument, is that the ideology of women being seen as little as possible is directly tied to patriarchal historical norms, right? I know people freak out when I use that word, but hear me out in this case. We're coming from a time that women weren't out in public at all. That's why in these old historic buildings, the ladies' room is way in the back where they could add it on retroactively. They didn't build public washrooms for women initially because women didn't need them. Then when women started to venture out in public more and more, it was dress so you can't be seen, and there are still parts of the world that are still applying this. And, that clothing is confining in its own way. A guy I used to work with who is a Muslim man said, you'll never see an air traffic controller in hijab, right? In a burqa specifically. It's just, you can't have all that, you'll look more like a windsock. It is deliberately designed to restrict. And as it, moved on, when we see these periods of huge advancement in women's rights, you then see an increase in nudity that follows. It's interesting because, the suffrage movement from 1880s-ish up into the early 20th century was followed, or they overlapped with all that gorgeous French nude painting, the bomber girl art. There's this hyper feminine thing that follows it, and the same thing happened with the 1960s and 70s when it was this fight for women's rights. Everything was very feminine, big lashes, big hair, everything like that. And that was when we got what I call the dwork side, this almost backlash to that, where and it's interesting because it was some organizational problems within second wave feminism that caused it, but this idea that you're somehow fighting the patriarchy by deliberately not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go, no, I'm not going to wear high-heeled shoes just because they look good. They make my damn feet hurt. And it's another thing to become unhealthy and claim that's progress. It's not. And there's a tricky thing with some of these theories because, not to stigmatize, but they were written by women who are profoundly mentally ill. And it doesn't mean that people who are mentally ill can't have good ideas. We just have to be really careful because so much of feminist writing from the second wave and onward, is first person narrative. It's not based on anything, because what do we have to draw from? We have de Beauvoir, Friedan, Millett, Firestone, and since when we've got Laura Mulvey with the male gaze, which doesn't work at all in video games. We've got Judith Butler with gender performativity, which works much better. We have Camille Paglia, but these all post-date that original stuff. So you get someone like Dworkin, she's about as reliable as Ayn Rand in terms of her biography, in terms of what she claims happened. And then you wonder, well, since so much of Dworkin's theories are based on personal narrative, and since her personal narrative is unreliable, what do we have left? Like where's the known? Where's the germ of truth that makes everything else back up there? And a lot of Sarkeesian's theories are very much informed by Dworkin and her comrades. I use that word very deliberately because there is a lot of Marxist class struggle. I mean, Sarkeesian quotes Marx all over the place, right? And that is not a given. Communism does not equal feminism. There's crossover in places, but you can't say that interpretation is right and Beyonce's what she's doing is wrong, because it's all first person narrative, right? And so what we need in gaming is tools. We desperately need tools. And poking at the damsel in distress again doesn't solve it. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but I just don't want to make this one point because it drives me nuts.
It's okay.
I hate the term damseling.
Yes, me too.
I hate it. 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 All a damsel is a young woman. And do we have a bit of a, issue with our female protagonists in games being notably younger than, our male protagonists? That could be argued. I don't know what the data actually is, but being a young woman is not inherently bad. Stop saying damseling. The issue is putting young woman in distress to further the plot of the male character. And that is actually called women in refrigerator syndrome, which puts the point on it a lot better. My friend Gail Simone kind of popularized that term based on a Green Lantern comic. And again, she was dealing with the proliferation of the trope, not that the trope itself is always bad, but I can't stand this damseling as a shorthand for something bad, because young women can't help being young women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It inherently demonizes the state of being a young woman. And that's precisely what people have issues with her. They think she's putting a chill on newbie participation in gaming in women.
That's what I'm afraid of, is that because everyone's looking to be so damn politically correct now, that you're actually going to limit the creativity in these games. I mean, a perfect example is, and it's actually not a game, it's a movie. Someone just sent me the trailer of it. Is the new Transformers movie, how they're shoehorning in feminism into that movie. And I complained about that on Twitter, and a lot of people got at me saying, "Oh, Rich, they've had women as eye candy in other movies." I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying, why in a Transformers movie? What does Transformers have to do with pro-feminism or anti-feminism? Why is it there?
See, Transformers ends up in the same kind of spot that I think Zelda does. These properties, these IPs, exist in the realm of childhood. Therefore, I did disagree with the whole, what's her name, Megan Fox leaning over that, car in improbable fashion, because no woman's ever going to dress like that to fix a car. You don't want to get grease on your designer duds, right?
That was stupid. Who the fuck would actually do that? Yeah.
And I think that when it's that stupid, it actually becomes less sexy. For some odd reason, though, it didn't bother me so much when it was Sid in Final Fantasy, because that was kind of a variation on a theme. And at least, it's dumb mechanics stuff. But it's Final Fantasy. Again, it's displaced. Nobody's saying that anybody expects women to actually do this in the real world. And that's the real concern with media depictions, right? But I don't think it should be one way or another in that regard. I think that any adult in those films, much like the show Stranger Things, they should be a parental figure. You know what I'm saying? Keep that embedded in the realm of childhood. And I think that Legend of Zelda is an example of that. It's based on Shigeru Miyamoto's childhood play, where he discovered a cave as a little boy, and there's a purity to that. And whether we like it or not, right now there is that gender binary of boys play outside, girls play inside. And instead of attacking the reflection of that, let's try to understand it, and let's give Nintendo a bit of credit for giving Zelda a Gnostic power in her own right. The whole point of Zelda is that she's the Triforce of Wisdom, so a lot of her power you can't see, and she's okay with that. And I think there are other ways of showing it. They've done it in other games. They've actually shown her knock Ganondorf on his ass in certain Zelda games.
And you'll never see Anita conveniently mention things like that.
If she does, it's to dismiss it the same way she dismissed Peach in Mario 2. Is just, oh, that's not real. It's data that doesn't support her conclusion, so she dismisses it.
She only supports data that's about her agenda.
Yeah. And I prefer to look at the Zelda games as Zelda. The structure of Zelda is there's always a Link, there's always a Zelda, there's sometimes a Ganon, but it's more, there's the avatar of courage, there's the avatar of wisdom, and there's the avatar of power. Those are the three requirements for a Zelda game. It's not always the same Link, it's not always the same Zelda. It's sort of this Gaiden style fragmented time that has sort of a loose continuity, right? And so what we're talking about is not a man, his enemy, who is also a man, and a woman. We are talking about two aspects of masculinity and the sacred feminine The sacred feminine is all through Zelda games. I mean, the Triforce is from the Golden Goddesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't look at it as a story about three people and their friends. We have to look at it more through the tradition of Japanese animism, borrowing from Western hero myth. And these are not games about men and women. These are games about masculinity, the construct that is masculinity, and the construct that is femininity. And it was cool where they were kind of going with Midna in Zelda, because Midna's the only character that sort of grew up. You know, she was enchanted, she was cursed. So she went from this little imp with kind of childlike proportions, and she was all sarcastic. And then when the curse is broken, whoa, where did that body come from? Right? That I would like to see Nintendo go more that way, and because they tend to explore two aspects of masculinity, that power, right? That you're the bully, and then the more noble form, the little guy, essentially, is what Link represents. And it's quite telling that he's courage and Ganon is power. It's you know, Ganon you could claim is the embodiment of toxic masculinity. I would think that would make Jonathan McIntosh very happy. But no, I'd love to see more on the female side. I'd love to see other aspects. That's not what he chose to do, and that's okay. But this statement she makes that we should knock down the review score of a game because it's not the game we would have made, you know, like that's a very dangerous precedent. And game reviewers, yeah, they all do what they want to do. But to me, philosophy of game review is you judge the game that was made, not the game you wanted to be made. And
you don't judge it on like a political mindset. Or
well, okay, if they attempt something and it's done badly,
yes, that's
I think that's fair.
If that's like the precipice of the game, if that's the main statement the game's trying to make, right, some kind of political outlook, and they do it shitty, that's different. Yeah. But when you're shoehorning something in like Anita is that just isn't there, then and if someone judges the game on that to try to kiss her ass, then that's different and that's dangerous. Yes, I totally
see. I think it's actually the opposite. I think that these guys that are taking up this mantle, it's not to kiss her ass. It's to maintain their own relative power. Because the ironic thing about Anita Sarkeesian is she is the greatest damsel in distress in video games right now.
Yes, she is. Yes.
And these guys are adopting her language and they're picking up her banner. And that metaphor is from chivalric tradition. The women stayed home because it was too dangerous, and the queen or the noblewoman gave a knight her banner so he could ride into banner with the lady's standard.
And they go out and literally white knight for her.
And they do. They you know, they go charging off and they draw fire and they act all all they're doing is perpetuating patriarchal chivalric norms. And I sit back here going, the best thing they could do is let it, you want to know what women think about these games, and this is fraught with peril as well because women don't agree on anything. Women are individuals. Mm-hmm. But if you're interested in the female opinion of a game, if you think that is important, if you think that deserves to be heard, you can't get that from Arthur Geis. He's a dude.
Yeah.
You know? And if we're going to go down that slope, then every game needs to be reviewed based on identity politics, meaning you need at least 6 different people because you need, you know, the cis white guy, you need the cis woman, you need the trans woman, you need the black lesbian, you need the Latino trans man, you know, you need all this stuff because if this is where we're going with game reviews, if we're going intersectionalism to the absurdist extreme, that's what we get. As it is, there are, you know, there are elements of you can be as objective as you possibly can as a reviewer, but at the end of the day, you are reviewing a game as a single person trying to anticipate how to inform the people who read you or watch you. The question somebody is asking from a review is, should I buy this game? And in a lot of ways, numeric scores don't serve that anyway.
No, they don't.
But for ones that still use it because you need them to be listed on Metacritic, it is not fair to demand that, because a 10 out of 10 does not mean perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect game. This is something I struggle with because I've never awarded a 10. If I was working on a 5-star system, there's a few games I think would get a 5 out of 5, but not a 10 out of 10, because you're talking about that above a 9.5, or above a 9, really. And I mean, The Last of Us is a game I would have given 5 stars to. Do I think that game is perfect? No. But I think it was, for the technology at the time and what they were trying to accomplish, it is an astounding game. Then the question is, how many marks do I take off for the fact that you can punch dudes into objects and they get stuck? Yeah. You know, there's no, it's not like gymnastics. We don't have a deduction sheet for, well, that's a 0.5 deduction, or that's a full point, you know, and this is a discussion we should be having as game reviewers. How big a mistake is a mistake? You know, I think if there's ever a point I have to reboot my game for whatever reason, that is a full point off.
Yes, I agree.
But that's mine. If it's just some silly thing like a facial animation that is kind of wonky, or characters popping in and out, or textures popping or something like that, that's less, unless it becomes exceptionally distracting. It's not breaking the game. And I think that these gender issues are a similar thing. Unless you can actually say something is a design mistake, and I have an entire college lecture about this, I'm giving it on Thursday again, where there are actual game design mistakes that lead to accidental acts of sexism. You can't take points off because a game offends your personal politics. You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be a modicum of objectivity.
Yeah, it's so true. I would not knock points off a game if I didn't agree with, like, its political message. You know, again, if the political message was delivered in a flawed manner and I didn't like how they executed it, that's different. But if it's done in a proper way and I just don't agree with it, I can't knock points off a game because they have a different outlook than I do. That's stupid. The one exception I would give to that, if you feel like a game is a work of propaganda and not a work of entertainment, yes. I think that, you know, at that point, I'm almost totally with agree. A moral obligation of, I decline to review this title. This is not a consumer product. This is a political statement. Yeah, that's different, and I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. But at that point, you know, if I get in a situation where I feel like I'm being, you know, for instance, if a game, just as an example, was either like pro-choice or pro-life and the whole game was about that, no, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Because that's not something somebody's going to play to enjoy. That's something people are going to use to indoctrinate people. And I don't want to spread that, you know? And I think some games have crossed that line. Like, I don't know, you kind of sit there and the game will be lecturing at you. Like, there was a moment in BioShock Infinite that was so dissonant in that way, it threw me out of the game. We were in an elevator or something like that. And I think it's right after that whole god-awful Daisy Fitzroy moment where she does the blood on the face, you know?
Yeah.
And they've unveiled the class struggle of the fact that these people are desperate. And then you've got these, you know, the clean criminals. There's no blood on their hands, but there's blood on their hands. They don't have to get dirty because they're making other people throw baseballs at interracial couples, right? The game has set this up. And I'm mulling this over in my head because shit just went down and somebody just got shanked with a pair of scissors. And Booker DeWitt, who is supposed to be a first-person avatar, says in my ear, all these people are the same, or something like that. Nobody's any better. And I was like, shut up. That should be my decision. The game should not be telling me what to think about the geopolitics of this game.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a writing mistake. I don't think it's an attempt to proselytize, but you got to be so careful, especially in first-person view, right? Like Doom does it right. Portal does it right. Those characters hardly say anything because that's supposed to be a suit of armor that you're wrapped in to play that game.
I don't think the newest Doom you say a single word. Your character.
There's a couple grunts, like it is a male voice.
Yeah, so you know it's.
And I'm okay with that because I think that that whole game is a parody of testosterone in all the most glorious of ways.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, like he never pushes a button. It's always boom, right?
Or throw something.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Again, it is a metaphor for a state of mind. This is not a literal commentary on men. This is, the character tells you how to play this game right. And the proper play style for Doom is very aggressive. It's very fast. You got to get in those monsters' faces, right? And that avatar tells you precisely how to play. Link is different. Link is a little boy. Mm-hmm. And so that is a shorthand, rightly or wrongly, for exploration, but don't take too many hits. Like you're not a hero yet, right? That's sort of the shorthand there. You put a girl in that spot, and the film technique that games are borrowing from is from Alien. And Ripley, right?
Ridley Scott.
The Sigourney Ridley. No, it's Ridley Scott. Ripley's the character.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm thinking
right? That's so confusing. So on the nose. But Ridley Scott made Ripley a woman, not initially to create this kick-ass female character. He made her a woman so that the audience would be more afraid for her. And the Tomb Raider franchise, they're on record as saying that was their intent as well. They wanted the player to develop a protective instinct with Lara Croft. Of course, that did not happen, and bless gamers for that. It's one of the best examples of how people don't play games the way they watch movies.
Yeah.
Because the minute you've got an avatar, that avatar is a teammate. And nobody wants to protect Lara Croft because people see Lara Croft as an equal.
Yeah, because she can hold her own, yeah.
But because she's you.
Yeah. Because
she has to be your peer. Why do I want to play a game where somebody sucks more than I do? You know? I don't want that. There's survival horror is the exception that proves that rule. I mean, Alan Wake having no melee attack. Makes sense to me. He's a noodly armed writer. You want to feel powerless. You know, the DLC from The Evil Within, where there's no attacks. You can't shoot shit. You just have to run away. Outlast is the same way. Those are deliberately depowered protagonists. But in an action game, no, I don't want to play as a loser. I want to play as somebody cooler than me, so I can feel cool. So I can kind of have a role model for cool, you know? So I can structure my outer persona based on my aspirations. And whenever a game developer decides that, and I'm giving away a lot of stuff from my new series here, I just realized, but hey, you guys get a preview here on Review Tech USA. When you try to develop a game and make the player protect the avatar, you are denying the player that aspirational catharsis. And that is a mistake in an action title. If you're not supposed to protect Nathan Drake, you shouldn't be expected to protect Lara Croft. And I don't know why you'd want to. You know, what's the point of playing a video game so that I can experience real life? I hate that in real life. You know, I hate that there's certain shoots when I used to work in news that they'd send male talent and male camera people out to without batting an eye, and then me, it's, oh no, it's too dangerous. And I'm like, well, if it's too dangerous for me, then you guys shouldn't be going, because I grew up in the ghetto and y'all have no street smarts. You know, but they weren't looking at my background. They weren't looking at my training per se. They were just going strictly on gender and going based on this idea that women are natural targets. And if anywhere is a place that we should be able to get away from that thinking, then video games are that, you know. And getting back to Zelda, the whole thing about that game that Sarkeesian is missing, and this is where people say she hasn't played the game. I think she's played the game, but she just doesn't get it, because she's playing a game, but she's not a gamer, if that makes any sense.
No, I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But Zelda, what you're supposed to think about Zelda, from my understanding of the game, is while Link is farting around outside in the kingdom, Zelda is using her wisdom powers to hold Ganon off, to delay. You know, it's the equivalent of the survival round shooters. You know, this part where reinforcements are coming in 3 minutes kind of thing. We understand this dynamic. It just happens off screen. And so there have been Zelda games, I believe, where you actually see that. I remember a battle where Zelda participated, and they all mushed together in my head, so I never remember which is which. But that is my understanding of what you're supposed to believe. And don't forget, the game is not called The Legend of Link. It's called The Legend of Zelda. So it's Zelda's...
Her whole argument is shot to shit. To me, again, it's another reason for a very popular game that's doing very well for her to keep her relevancy. You know, and I'll end it with this, too, because a lot of people, Rich, why do you talk about her? Why do you try to keep her? It kind of almost conflicts with what I just said. Well, you talking about her keeps her relevant. She has such devout followers that if I never even mentioned her, it's still, her shit spreads like wildfire. Another perfect example of this happening, too, was with the whole Dead Rising 4 thing, where they posted a tweet, Microsoft did, where it went, yeah, and people were like, oh my God, that sounds like the N-word. How dare you post that? That was already taken down before I made a video. My video did not popularize that, or other people's videos who made it on that didn't make it popular. It already happened. So whether you talk about it or not, she has a following to the point that this stuff spreads anyway. And I'd rather confront it and go against it and explain why it's ridiculous than just kind of sweep it under a rug and say, yeah, you know.
Yeah, we don't have a metaphor for this phenomenon that doesn't. She is the elephant in the room on these topics. I mean, ironically, she's become a trope herself. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's kind of hard. It's beyond hard. It's disingenuous to try to talk about these things without crossing paths with something she's done. And I know with my own stuff, I try to avoid it as much as possible, because just by the sheer nature of offering counterpoint, I don't want to seem like I'm beating on her, right? I'm very careful to give her the benefit of the doubt as a person. My issue is with her theories. But it's impossible to discuss whether or not the damsel in distress is an inherently evil or problematic or harmful, whatever euphemism you want to use for bad, you know, trope, without people immediately thinking of plaid and hoop earrings. It's just become the Grendel of this heroic journey that gamers are on. And that was a lot of mixing metaphors. I apologize for that one.
And it's almost like I'll end the video with this, kind of like what I started with, is like, do you almost want to go back to times where women had to be totally covered up in huge dresses to not expose themselves? And it's almost like they almost want to regress back to those times. And what is that? What narrative is that going to help?
See, some games do that quite well. I liked the part in Syndicate where Evie couldn't run and jump because she was wearing a dress. I thought that was a cute little way to... It was an interesting twist on the part of the game where the hero's in their underwear and depowered and has lost all their gear. It was an interesting switch of they put more clothes on her instead of took the armor off. I thought that was cute.
And look what happened. It ended up being a disadvantage, and that's an interesting, well-played thing for Ubisoft to do with that. So
because they're conscious about it, they think about it in terms of games, and Ubisoft takes a lot of crap, but they are very good in that they think about every choice they make, and that doesn't mean they don't go down the garden path and fuck up. Every developer fucks up in its own way, but at least they're experimenting from a conscious perspective. They're trying to figure out how to make a video game instead of how to make an interactive movie. And in doing that, we can't take any tool out of the toolkit, right? So we can't take away any type of woman. We can't take away prostitutes. We can't take away women in burqas. We can't take away anything that exists in any part of history, because at some point that might be the best way to explain a gameplay mechanic. And at the end of the day, that is really what characters in games exist to do.
So thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. And
yeah, it was fun again.
Yeah, it was. We'll definitely do it again. I'll have a link to Liana's channel below in the description, guys. You should check it out. And it's been great.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. See you later, guys. Have a good one. Make sure you sub to Liana's channel.